Welcome a man who definitely needs an introduction. He's the hardest working man in shoe business. James Clear, author of the book Atomic Habits, suggests long-term success can be obtained by making small changes and improving by just 1% each day. Well, James, you better grab a pen and take some notes because our guest today seems to be improving by 1.5% every single day. Like Johnny Five from Short Circuit, I'm looking for input, and our guest today is a factory of output. Posting running and shoe content daily on YouTube, often 20 to 30 minute videos. He could make the Lord of the Rings trilogy feel like a short film. A daily vlogger who assumed the empty throne left by SJD. A certified shoe tuber to the likes of Ed Budd. A high volume and quite speedy runner, running over 100 miles a week. A husband. A father. Something resembling a mortal, but likely not. Today I am talking with Yowana Wamala on the streets of YouTube, known only as Yowana.
That was over the top. I appreciate it, man. I'm all about consistency, though.
The following is a conversation that I had with Yowana. We talk about how he finds the time to do all the things. We talk about running shoes naturally, and we even dive into some training talk. This is the second interview that I have done, and I'm still working through my suck. So please forgive me. The audio quality on my end is a little bit off. It will be corrected and better the next time. Thanks for checking it out.
Like, for me, it's just about, I said this last week, just swinging the axe every day, just being consistent. Whether it's getting better, I don't know, but just showing up and doing it, that's half the battle for me. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I have a problem with exaggeration.
I love it. And can I do one for you? Because you're the host, but
Sure.
Yeah, you're the funniest. So when I discovered your channel, I thought you were the funniest running YouTuber. Might have been one of the funniest YouTubers I saw in a while. Immediately subscribed, and then you found me and left a really nice comment when I had like 500 subscribers, and just great energy, super positive guy, and love watching your videos. And like, I don't watch a lot of other running YouTubers because I just try to stay locked in, but I think you're one of the one or two that I watch, and I always get a chuckle and I'm uplifted when I do. So thank you for having me on.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We have that in common. Good vibes. So I'm going to start all of these. We need some sort of context because all fathering is very similar but not quite the same. It is a cosmic roll of the dice, and also the quantity matters. How many children do you have and how old are they?
Yeah, so if you asked me this a month ago, I would have said 2, but now we got 3. So we got baby Joy. She's the newest addition. She's in bed right now with Charles. She's 4 weeks old. I think today she was born January 31st, right on her due date. She was the only one who was born on the due date, which is funny. And then the middle guy, he's Ira. You hear me talk about Reevesy Boy. He's the one who I do all the stroller runs with. He's about to be 2 on March 12th. And he was actually born on where his due date was Mason's birthday. She's the oldest. She's March 6th. She's going to be 5 in a few weeks. So we got 5, 2, and almost or just turned 0. So it's 2 under 2 for the next 2 weeks, and we're definitely feeling the burn. I don't know if I'm qualified to be on this How Do You Find the Time podcast, because for the past few weeks I'm like, where am I going to make the time for all this? But that's part of the beautiful challenge, I think, with it.
I will say this. I said this on the last conversation as well. Under 5 years old, you can't just say you have 2 or like you put them together and you add them. You can't multiply them. Under 5, they're exponential. So like you've got 9 kids essentially right now. So there's just like probably rogue diapers around, rolled up like grenades around every corner,
When the 5-year-old and the 2-year-old get each other going, the noise, I don't know if you remember that or in that, the noise that a 5-year-old plus a 2-year-old can make combined is just wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have no volume knobs. They haven't learned that part. No. Mine are 13, 11, and 4. And so the third wheel is interesting, but their age gap is enough to where the older ones can kind of help out with the younger ones as well. And all right, so the purpose of this conversation is going to be like, how do you find the time? How do you find the time to run? How do you find the time for family? Now, you've been talking a little bit on your channel about this, but not everybody is subscribed. So the first question, how do you find the time to run? And I guess for context, how many miles a week do you run?
Yeah, so to answer the first part of it, for me, it's really making the time. And that's something that I'm always trying to think about, and I have this phrase, ruthless prioritization. I think with everything that I have going on, family, work, thankfully I'm on paternity leave right now. I don't know, thankfully it's a whole different equation being on childcare full time, but it's about making the time. And so I take it day by day usually. And that's why I do the 100-mile per week target. And I set up these systems for myself where if I'm going into a training block, I'll have non-negotiables. And for this training block, it was, I know I want to hit at least 75 miles per week on a down week, ideally get to 100 miles per week and be doing a 20 to 22 mile long run. And then each day I'll see how many miles I get. And if I get to Wednesday and I'm only at 20, that means we're going to have to do probably 3 20-mile double days. And I'll make the time for that to happen, because when I set a goal for myself, and I don't know what it is, I just won't, if it's a goal that I can control, like miles per week, and that's why I do this versus I want to run a certain pace, I'm going to hit that goal because it's within my control to do that. And when I first started running, it's actually the way that I improved my health, because I came to running as a way to get out of a sedentary period. This was post-college, and you might have heard me talk about this before, but I wasn't super unhealthy or anything, but it's just like a lot of people, we start working. I was working from probably 9 to 7 in New York City, taking the subway from Brooklyn into Manhattan each day. It was about an hour each way. So that ended up being 2 more hours where I was just sitting down. And then when we moved down here to Charlotte, we saw, Charlie and I both saw this poster for a 5K, and we're like, you know what, let's do it. So that was 2020. I stuck with running ever since then. And it's been something that I've always had goals around it. When I first started, it was, okay, I'm going to run 3 times per week. I also had other fitness goals, like I'm going to be doing this ab workout every day. And for 2 years, I did a 10-minute ab workout, but I did it every day for 2 years. I didn't miss. It was super annoying when we had to travel or something. I was like, I got to do my exercises, but somehow I made the time for it. And something that I wanted to make sure I got across in this conversation is it can be not the best for the people around you when you have this mindset. And I think for me, it's something that we work out all the time with Charlie, but whenever I hold myself to these goals, I make sure that I find the time or make the time to do it. And it's just a give and take with making sure that we can show up in other ways. But that's the key to being able to run 100 miles a week. It's, I got to make the time every day, and figuring out when that's going to be.
So how do you find the time? What are some like real world examples? Like wake up at what time? Where are the time blocks for you, or where have you found the time in the last few weeks to work in those runs?
Yeah, so before the last few weeks, we locked into a really nice schedule. So I work from home, and the neighborhood that I live in, I can just pop out the door and get as many as I can do my 22-mile long run here. And so my schedule was typically wake up at from sometime to 6 or 7, and then I would do a run probably 10 to 14 miles here from probably around 8 a.m., and then finish up and start working from home at around 9:30, 10. And then I would do my second run of the day with my son in the stroller, get around 4 to 8 miles in the afternoon once I'd finished up work. Now it's been different. I've been doing more of the school drop off. So before, that's what Charlie did. And with doing the school drop off, with helping out with breakfast, making sure, you know how it is, shepherding all the kids to get out the door, make sure everyone's lunch is packed. I'm not doing that morning run right away. So there's been a few different things. The stroller running is great. And if you have small kids, it's a great way to be able to get those miles in and also go to the park or have some other type of bonding activity. So that's something I've done a lot recently. Is if I'm on drop off, I'll get usually 6 to 8 miles with Reevesy in the stroller. And another thing I've been trying to do is waking up 4:30, 5 a.m. and getting on the treadmill for anywhere from 8 to 14 miles before they get up. And how do you find the time? It's finding those 5 to 20 minute optimizations in the schedule that can make this work. And sometimes if you're a runner, you got to think in miles. And I'm like, if I'm driving 35 more minutes, I could be running, I don't know, 3 to 5 more miles in that time to get the 100 miles I need. So that's been a huge one, is getting it before. And then trying to do that afternoon second run too. So Charlie's starting to get back into it more. She's starting to take some of the drop-offs and the pickups. So I've been using that to work in my runs. And then the additional consideration is the filming around it, because I've been doing more of the YouTube tied to what I'm actually running in that day. So
what are the best shoes for stroller running?
Yeah, so for stroller running, I love simple but comfortable shoes. And so I run in pretty much everything, as you've probably seen. But right now, I ran a lot in the 1080 V13 a few weeks ago. It's a little bit softer than what I like for stroller running. So it's something like a Nike Pegasus, even. Or this is not a great example because I haven't been loving this shoe, but a New Balance 880 V14 or a Puma Velocity Nitro 3 or a Nike Vomero 17. That category of shoes is what I really like. So daily trainers that don't have a ton of cushion. I'm not really going to be running it with a plated shoe with the stroller or something super fast. Just needs to have a nice enough comfortable cushion for me. Basically, anything that would be comfortable to walk in is what you'd want on the stroller. On Cloud Monster is one that I used to use a ton. My pair has gotten pretty beat down now, but something like that. I think Vomero is probably my top pick right now.
So do you ever get any runs in the PM, or is like after the kids have gone to bed, or is that just like a time where you're doing YouTube?
Yeah, so I do like to run twice a day, but I try to get it in before dinner. That's usually where I'm happiest, getting it done before dinner and then doing any work after. But there have been a few times where I'll do it, and especially with the treadmill. I don't love running outside at night in the dark, but in the summer it's a little bit better. But usually I try to do before dinner and then gym after. And I know you're a big lifter. I occasionally do it now, not too much. I think I'm going to add it back in for my next training block. It's probably not good to add anything crazy 5 weeks out, but that's when I like to do my lifting. Is I had a really good schedule over the summer where I would do 30 minutes on the treadmill after dinner. You got to make sure you don't eat too much because then you get the heartburn. But 30 minutes on the treadmill after dinner into some heavy lifting. And then I used to do CrossFit. So I do throw in some burpees or just anything high intensity too. It's a really nice way to end the day. And I found that lifting and running, or just lifting, it gives me a different focus. So it is nice if I have work to do as well to get that lift in and then hit the work after.
Do you take the kids to races, or the races that you ran? I know you did a couple half marathons last year. I don't know what you've raced this year or what your plans are for races this year, but do you plan on bringing the kids?
Yeah, so they've come to every single race. Charlie doesn't like to miss it. And I think, again, with us having that culture of just being active and loving exercise and being outside, we like doing it as a family. So when I did the Charlotte Marathon in 2022, we all drove together in the morning. I was very stressed out, of course, before. And then they went to every single half I did last year. And then this year I have a marathon coming up in a few weeks. We're all going to go together. And Mason actually loves, my oldest one. She loves going to the races. She loves cheering on all the runners and the vibe. So it's cool to share that with them. Reevesy is too young to, well, now he's not, but before he was too young to know anything. He just sit in the stroller. And I think Mason also associates it with getting like a donut or a cookie or something. So that also helps.
Does Charlie meet you at some point on the course with the bottle? Is it like your station?
So because I was doing halves, it wasn't as important. But so she wasn't doing that. They'd usually try to meet me once somewhere on the course, but I don't know. I'm not sure. Man, the marathon is just such a different beast. I've only done one so far, so this is going to be an interesting one. And yeah, I think they actually might allow you to put bottles out on the course for this one, cool. So maybe I'll look into that. But I've been carrying.
What did you run the first one?
Time?
Yeah. Or what marathon and would you run? Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the first one was Charlotte 2022, and I ran that in 3:19. And it's weird, right? My half fitness around that time was probably around a 1:25. And that's why I'm like terrified of the marathon, man. It's not kind to me. It's a different beast. And that's why I came to this high mileage. Cause I'm like, the next time I do a marathon attempt, I want to make sure that I'm setting myself up for success. And I know that because I'm younger, because I have more of a history of sports and like quick twitch, the speed is not as bad for me. It's like I need to work on my endurance. So that's what I've been working on for the past year and a half. That's why I did all those halves last year, is trying to make my endurance a little bit better so that these next 2 marathon attempts this year, we can really see what we got.
All right. And what marathon are you going to be running in 5 weeks?
So it's called the Coast Guard Marathon. It's in beautiful state of North Carolina here, but it's actually 5 hours away from where I live. North Carolina is huge, but it's on a Coast Guard base up around the coast. Should be super pretty, and it should be super flat, which is not common. Charlotte Marathon has, I believe it's over 1,000 feet of elevation gain.
Wow.
It's a hilly one. So this one should be a little bit better, but it's weird because my neighborhood is also super hilly. So whenever I'm running marathon pace, it's probably not going to be what my marathon pace is there. And I don't actually ever get to run on a flat course. But I wanted to pick this one because I'm doing Chicago later this year, and that's also a pretty flat one.
So what's your goal for this marathon coming up?
My goal is to finish and run a clean race. So I'm not putting a time goal on it. Uh, the last half I did, I came in like 119, but I did not run a clean race. I was pacing, I don't know. So I think it's an average 6:04, 6:05. But for the first 10 miles, I was pacing like a 6:03. And then the last three, I came in 6:18, 6:19. So my goal, and it's super hard, is to run even splits as much as possible. And if that means going out a little bit below my fitness or at my fitness, that's what I'll do. My hope is that with consistent 22-mile long runs every week and how much mileage I'm doing, that I can do that. So my fitness is probably anywhere from 248 to 255. So it'd probably be somewhere around that range.
So from when you started running about 4 years ago, I started running about 4 years ago. You've gotten faster over that time. What do you think was the key for you to get faster? Like, was it increasing the volume? Was it a mix of things? How did you get faster?
Yeah, so I think there's probably three different parts of my running journey. So when I first started, like I mentioned, I was doing those ab workouts every day. This was also during COVID and the gym shut down. So I think that's a good way to ease in. And I know now that you and I are both in it, we know about zone two. We know about you should run your mileage slow. That's how you build aerobic base. You build the capillaries. I didn't start out like that. I just started running fast and I was progressing. And at the same time, I would go through periods of like, okay, now I want to increase my long run distance. So a few times I'd work up to 10 miles or 12 miles, and then I'll go back to doing my normal 5K runs, 5 mile runs per week. And for the first 2 years, I saw consistent progression. My average paces started dropping into the 6:30 range, 6 range for my normal runs where I'd go out there and run hard. Looking back at it now, I was probably running a lot of that at a threshold pace or just the high. I could look at my Nike Training Club app because that's what I used to use. Then I got a coach for the Charlotte Marathon. And so that's how I learned some of the workout styles. I'd never run workouts before 2022. I would just go out there and run hard. And that's why I say a lot of the times, like you can just go and run hard once a week and your fitness will improve because that's what worked for me. But then after the Charlotte Marathon, I was like, dude, this was a terrible experience. I was going through a pretty tough transition time in my life as well, changing jobs. And then I'd put a lot of emotional investment into that marathon and wanting to go sub 3 in that first marathon, and then got injured towards the end and fitness trailed off and came in at 3:19, which is a great time for a first marathon.
Yeah,
especially,
absolutely.
yeah, being able to build up with not having a huge base. But after that, I knew that there was something there that I was really interested in and I wanted to improve and learn. So I dove super deep into learning everything about the principles of running, about what aerobic base building was, but why high mileage is important. And so that's when early or late 2022, early 2023, I started running 80, 100 miles, 100-mile weeks and ramping up a ton.
All right, we can transition here a little bit to YouTube. What motivated you and inspired you to start a YouTube channel?
Yeah, so it goes back to the progression of my career. So I started off at a company called Value Penguin in New York City. This was my first internship out of college, and they are or were a marketplace for financial products. So I've been in this product evaluation space for a while, and as I was researching and getting deeper into health and fitness, I thought there could be some opportunity for a NerdWallet focused on health and fitness. And I wasn't quite sure what it would look like or what it could look like. That's when I started Supwell, the website that I have. And this was, again, 2022. It was super broad. The name Supwell actually comes from supplements. And that's what the focus of it was initially going to be, like a marketplace for evaluating supplements, which I still think would be a great business, which is not what I'm focused on or it's not where I think I can add the most value right now. But that was going to be the initial idea of like, what are the best supplements for this, the best protein for that. And it pivoted to, I'm going to post one product to this site every day, like write about the product every day. And that became, I'm going to write an article every day as a way to hold myself accountable to driving this business forward and getting something off the ground, because I knew that there was something there. And then that turned into, I'm going to flip on the camera and make a YouTube video every day. And what I was doing on the website had evolved into writing more about running shoes all the time, because that's what I was interested in. And I built the running shoe database on there. And so I started talking about running shoes every day on YouTube. And I made a goal of, I'm just going to do this every day for a year and not quit. I can't quit, because there's been other times in my life where I've started stuff and stopped. I think we all have, right? But it's like, I'm just not going to quit this. And so that's how we got it off the ground, just making videos about shoes every day.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I see the snowball getting bigger. It's wonderful.
Yeah. I think my first ever video though was well over a year ago. It was actually the Tracksmith Elliott Runner. For some reason I really wanted that shoe when it came out, and it's a really good shoe. But I did an unboxing when it got in, and that was my first video I ever did.
All right, we can switch over to some shoe talk. All-time greatest per genre of shoe. We'll start with, what is your favorite daily trainer of all time?
I think I have to go back to that Adidas Ultra Boost. It's just a nice, comfortable cushion shoe. That Boost foam was awesome, and you see it now in the Saucony Triumph shoes. It's a similar foam, but it's also great because it looks good, and that was always important to me. And like starting off with the Nike Run Club app, right? Like Nike's cool. It's not, unless you become super into running, like wearing Asics or a Garmin or Coros, it's not cool until you're a huge running nerd. So I think like the Adidas shoes are cool, the Nike shoes are cool, because that is my honor I've been to it. So I got to go with the Adidas Ultra Boost 22.
All right, greatest recovery shoe of all time.
New Balance 1080 V13.
All right.
Yeah.
What about greatest tempo shoe, if that's a thing?
Yeah, speed. I'll do two. So plated and non-plated. Non-plated, I really like the Rebel V3, last year's version. Nice and bouncy, lower foam. I used that for all my half marathon, or most of my half marathon pace workouts last year. So running half marathon pace around these hills, and it was a really nice shoe to do that in the summer. I also think something about running in a non-plated, just super light shoe in the summer on the hills. It's a good memory. And then plated shoe, Boston 12 for a plated workout shoe. That shoe, once it's broken in, is just really nice. Soft, bouncy, soft depending on I guess your spectrum of things. But for me, soft, bouncy, and the rods in there give a nice snap. I actually ran in the Audios Pro 3 today for the first time, the racing version of that. I did not love it. So Boston 12 takes cake.
All right, sweet. What about race day shoe? And I guess we probably have to say like marathon and then half marathon, because I feel like there's like an aggressive kind and like a semi-aggressive shoe, you know?
So what I raced Charlotte in 2022 and did a lot of my races for that build was the Endorphin Pro 3. And that's a great shoe. But I think my favorite half marathon shoe of all time is the Nike Vaporfly Next% 2. Just feels a little bit, I don't know, something about it feels faster than the 3, which is still a good shoe, but a little bit soft for me. And then for this year, I'm probably not going to race in the Saucony Pro 3 or Pro 4 again. I'm still haven't decided, but I think my favorite of the ones I've tried is actually the Diodora Gara. It is a really fun shoe to run.
Best shoe company, if like you had to get sponsored by a shoe company and you had to factor in all of the shoes they have in for their rotation, what company?
New Balance, for sure. They have everything. I don't think I've tried, other than the 880, which you don't even need that shoe, I don't think I've tried a shoe that I don't like. Like you can use the Rebel for daily, 1080 for recovery. The SC Elite V4 is okay, but it's not. I think all their like the majority of your miles are training miles, so that's going to be, they got you covered. SC Trainer V2 is awesome. I think the V3 is going to be even better.
I might go Adidas, because like the Prime X Strong I can take for recovery and daily, because I wasn't a huge fan of the Adizero SL. It's okay. I'm looking forward to number 2 when that one comes out for sure. You know, but the Takumi Sen for faster day stuff. I do like the Adios Pro 3. It took a long time to grow on me, because I love the 2. I love the 2 so much, even though it was a little bit wonky, or you know, it was a little unstable, but it was so bouncy and it was fun. Like when I got 3 and it was more stable, it was like, oh, this isn't as aggressive. But I feel like when I land more up on the forefoot and then when I get going, I don't know, maybe it needed time to break in, but I've come to appreciate it. I appreciate it a little more now,
Okay, I got to give him another shot because I wasn't running super fast on my hitting it on the forefoot, so I think that's what I need to do to change. And then Audi Zero SL2 is going to be awesome. They're refusing to give us any information on it though, even though they had it at the running event and stuff leaked. And then I actually tried the Supernova Rise recently, which is not the sexiest shoe, but it's really comfortable and it's a nice daily trainer. I think it kind of flew under the radar a little bit, but it's a nice shoe.
Yeah, I get all my shoes. I buy my own shoes, so like I have to be really selective whenever I pick it. So it's like I'm gonna wait till that one goes in the bargain bin, and then I'm gonna give it a whack. So, did you feel so? You went to the running event. How was that experience for you?
The convention hall was like stimulation overload. Just seeing dozens of those new shoes that day was so cool. But it was also cool because Charlie came down with me, and before that we had 1 or 2 nights away from the kids in the past 4 years, and so we stayed at a hotel together. We went to dinner every night, so that was cool. That's what stuck out to me from it. It was work, but it was also time for us to hang out. And then she did all the filming, which is something that I'll always remember. So I think we're going to make it a tradition to go with the two of us every year and get a little bit of time to hang out. Then, of course, it was fun to see the products and the brands. But next year, I think I might try to do 2 days because we packed everything into one day. I didn't set up any meetings beforehand, which I found out afterward that a lot of the other media did. We were just run and gun. We would just go into the stands for all the brands, like, what do you got? Talk about your products, and bang, bang, boom, call it a day.
You already answered this question, but if you had to pick one shoe that would do all of your runs, like, if someone's saying, I'm only have enough money to purchase one shoe, I'm going to do all my running in it.
Yeah, for me, Rebel V4. I loved it. It had enough cushion for long runs. I took it up to 22, 23 miles. I did workouts in it. I think most people probably want a little bit more cushion than that has, and maybe a little bit more pop, maybe a plated shoe. I know people love running the plated shoes every day. So probably Saucony Endorphin Speed 3, and they dropped the price on it to $135. So I think people should be buying that because I don't love the Speed 4. It's a little bit awkward. Speed 3 is just more fun to run in. I know people did daily that shoe and really like it. So Speed 3.
Now, how do you find the time to post on YouTube daily? Most people probably don't know how much work goes into that, right? Like I make content, I try to make like one piece of content a week, and I struggle every week. It's a miracle that I'm able to post it. So I am curious, how do you do it every day?
Yeah, so there's a few things. First is before I started this, I was probably sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night. Now I got the Coros. When I had the Apple Watch, I didn't wear it to bed because the battery life is terrible. But this I wear it to bed. It tells me I average 6 hours a night now. So I'm definitely sleeping less. The other thing is minimizing B-roll. That is a tip, man. B-roll takes so much time to add. That's something I've tried to adapt with my styles. Like I just talk to the camera, I show the shoe. Because when I first started, I would talk about the shoe, like holding it up here, and then I would talk about the midsole, and I put B-roll of the midsole close to the camera. Like now I'll just show the shoe close to the camera if I'm talking about the midsole. So I think like minimizing editing time, that's a huge thing that lets me do it.
Yeah. And you only need one song. It's the one song you got.
Yeah, exactly. No, you don't gotta mess with the music. You don't gotta mess with the B-roll. Just
if I hear that song on the back of you, I'm like, oh, this is Yowana. Because I don't watch YouTube so much as I listen to YouTube. I'll just save everything to a watch later. Yeah. Go for a run, put it in my pocket in my tights, and then go. And then I don't even know what I saved. You really don't need to do any B-roll because I'm not watching,
That's great. How's your training going, by the way?
Oh, it's fantastic. So I did 80-mile weeks. I did like 82. The most I've ever run in a week was 80 before this. And so I did 82, 72 because I had to cut a long run short, 84, 80, and then 60. And progressively, as I worked through that month, I was increasing the intensity while keeping the volume around the same thing as I knew my body could handle it. And I felt that, like when you go for a run and you're just like aerobically fitter and you're just running and you're like, I can breathe easy. I look down at my watch and it's like 7:45 pace. And I'm like, I got fitter, So it's like fitness kind of kicked in. So like right now it's like, I hit the taper and I had those 2 weeks. And so it was like almost scared to lose that. Like I didn't want to push it, but they're like, you don't lose it in 7 days. You don't lose
It's
it.
so
I'm like,
scary.
And I'm like,
it's such a scary thing.
Yeah, you don't, right? And then so my favorite website is Runalyze. Do you know Runalyze?
I've heard of it, but I've never used it. I've heard you talk about it in your video, actually. It gives you your projected finish time, right? Based on all this data.
Yeah. So it's got like an effective VO2 max based on like your heart rate data and other stuff. So like CR Plots is the one that kind of gives you your race prediction. This one gives you like, it has like a marathon shape as well, like percentage. So like it has your fatigue, your overall fitness, your stress balance, monotony, if you're running the same kind of thing, in your training strain. And then so like each run, your effective VO2 max can kind of change or alternate or whatever. So running the Houston Marathon was almost like the Houston Marathon was my tune-up race.
Yeah.
And it was, I built towards it and then I kind of eased my way back into it. And now this bigger wave came. And I recovered fine from the first one, and I was doing 24-mile long runs, and I did another 24-mile long run. So, like, when I ran 26, it's not like, oh, I got to take a month off, you know? So I feel like I'm recovered from it.
The more you do, it's with the marathon, it's just the quicker you recover, the easier it is. For my first one, I was out for like a month, just completely smoked. I was like, easy run, heart rate was like 175.
I remember even going to the gym and starting on the treadmill, and it's like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
20, I got to 30 minutes, and then you run so long that an hour feels like nothing. And then if you run 100 miles, then 90 minutes feels like nothing, right?
Yeah.
And then and it's kind of like you start doing these long runs where they're like, to me, I like break them up like road trips, where it's like, okay, 2 miles here, 5 miles there, 2 miles here, 5 miles there, 2 miles. And I just worry about that next little thing that's coming up. And then it's like, oh, I've done 22 miles,
I think the worst recovery I've had over the past year was one of my friends in our neighborhood. He does a 100-lap race around his house called the Holiday 100 every Christmas. And it works out to about 17 miles, but I think it's 3,500 feet of elevation gain. And my legs were absolutely smoked for 4 days. I was running like 10-minute miles and just barely crawling.
Yeah. No, my quads were ripped. Yeah. So there's a really great half marathon in Austin called the 3M Half Marathon, and it's from the north of Austin all the way down to South Austin. But it's a week after Houston. So it gets kind of overshadowed because everyone's like, oh, Houston, Houston half's fast. And it's flat. And the Woodlands, which I'm racing, is just north of Houston, and it's also very flat. Yeah. I'm going to bring a GoPro. Are you gonna film your race?
I don't have a GoPro or anything. This is my kit, my setup right here. I just got this.
Nice.
I use this for everything. So that's something I'm looking into getting. I want to figure out how I can do it in a way that makes sense for me, but I'm probably not going to film. I might film the race. But we blew the February budget on shoes. That's the thing right now is like I get some of them, but then there's also other stuff. Like people wanted me to review the Adidas Pro 3 and that came out like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I just buy it. So it's like money coming in is money going out, just straight to shoes. That's the best investment we can make right now.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I have a shoe budget. I'm gonna buy in advance. I'm gonna take from the shoe budget to get the Alpha Fly 3. But here's the deal.
Yeah.
I didn't get the Alpha Fly 3, so I'm still saving that. So I have like race day shoe money still, but I want to wait till they re-release the Proto. I don't like the new colorway.
Oh, the yellow with the blue. No,
it's like if I'm gonna spend that much money, I wanted to. Yeah, I don't want to be a highlighter out there, but
What are you running in for the Woodlands?
So what are you gonna run in?
I'm not sure. I've been going by feel mostly, and I need to get better with the course is terrible with the heart rate, and I don't like strapping on a lot of tech, but maybe that's a good thing. Strap on the Polar and just see what my heart rate's at. Yeah, I've liked the Diodora the most. I think the New Balance could be a good choice, but I gotta just run some more miles in it. I know you didn't love it, right?
Yeah, that one, I mean, it felt really good. But I feel like there's a lot of like really good shoes. I kind of like a little bit less. Like to me, the perfect shoe, like the Takumi Sen 8 or 9 is like the perfect kind of, there's enough there. There's some bounce back. There's some energy return, but it's light. It's small.
Yeah,
It's
it felt really tall, right? Like it
yeah.
just felt like a lot of foam, the New
It,
Balance.
yeah, the New Balance
Yeah.
one, right? And so I like something that's just like a little aggressive, right? So like I would say also like when I run in the Nike Vaporfly, the next percent the twos, the ones that you like, I feel that that shoe just shoves me forward, right? Like it's an
Yeah.
aggressive shoe, especially as you land. You're like, wow, like if I had to pick one shoe because I really want to go fast, I would do this. I don't know if I could sustain this for a marathon. That's super aggressive, but like I like that. And so the Alpha Fly always feels like it's giving me a lot of propulsion forward too. And then so like as far as other super shoes that don't, they're just kind of like, yeah, that's nice. Like it's bouncy. Like
Yeah.
The Puma Deviate Nitro Elite, it's good, right? Like I liked it. It's just if I'm gonna pay that much money, I want that 4%. I want
Yeah.
something to like push
Yeah.
me a little bit forward. So I wouldn't regret running in it. So
Yeah. Sometimes for me, it's also like, what have my best workout in? Because I was deciding last year between the Pro 3 and the Vaporfly 2 for a half marathon. I just felt like all my best workouts are in the Vaporfly 2. I'm going to go with this one. It's just
hmm
what I feel. That's got the juice for this block.
yeah, no, and I do the same thing too. It's like I'll do the same similar workout, and then I'll look back at the data, temperature being about the same, the terrain was about the same, I ran the same thing. I can look and see like, oh, I was slightly fast. Maybe I'm more in shape now, but I
No.
I ran faster in this shoe, right? And it felt more effortless and it feels a little better. So my only thing with the Alpha Fly is that late in the race, like it just feels like such a cadence shoe where it's
Mm,
like I want to
you
pick it
gotta,
up.
yeah.
That's when I went something like a little more quicker and nimble, and that's what I really liked about the Adios Pro 2.
I wish Diodora didn't price the Gara at 300 because I feel like a lot of people will like it, but they're just not going to go for it because it's
hmm
300. Because it's exactly what you're describing. Like it's nimble, it feels light, and it has that like it combines the put you up on your toes bounce, but also you can kind of shuffle along in it. But at 300, I just don't think people are going to bite.
Or whatever. Have you considered sponsorships or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, the way I'm looking at it, like I'm trying to make this a business and it already is going in that direction. And it's still the goal is like to serve as many people as possible. And before I started, like I would just talk about this stuff to Charlie. Of course, she doesn't want to hear it. She's also like, I think you could help more people by talking about it publicly. But again, with the sponsorships, it's just like you got to reach out to people, you got to do it. And so I was hoping during paternity leave I would have more time because I wasn't working my day job to do this, but I haven't yet. And so that's a goal is like do more sales, do more sponsorships because that's an easy way. Not easy, but it's already locked. The system of publishing content's
hmm
already there, so it's like let's monetize that versus setting up something else like a membership and thinking about are we going to give people stickers?
But what about Charlie? Does she still run?
Yeah, here and there, not 4 weeks postpartum,
No,
but
no, no, no. Yeah.
she's gonna I think she's gonna do half marathon this year. She worked up to 10-mile long runs last year and was considering doing a half marathon, but then pregnancy, so didn't end up doing it. But
hmm
she's always been more into yoga, lifting, but again, both of us have been pretty into fitness, and I think she's also kind of at some points like that's your thing, like you have your thing,
hmm
I'll have my stuff, but she does like it. And I've gotten her some shoes. Like I got her the Mach 5s for Christmas, and Topo sent her the Atmos because we met them at the running event. So she's been
Oh,
walking and
nice.
running in those every day. So
That's
she's got
cool.
all the gear.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got my wife the Vongo fives, and she really likes
Oh, dude.
those.
Yeah, that keeps coming up, and people ask me for stability shoes, and I don't run in them, but I feel like that looks like a nice option because it's kind of like the 1080, but more stable.
Yeah, what happened was someone at work. I work in coffee, but like so people are out on the floor a lot, and I was like, "Do you like those shoes?" And they were like, yeah, she's like, these are the most comfortable shoes I've ever had. I can run in them or whatever else. I was like, and then I looked at them and they were Vongos. And then she was like, they're really expensive though. It's like, yeah,
I know.
I know.
Yeah.
Did you know? Yeah, they come and get me. Like if I'm in the store, like visiting a store, and they're like, hey, there's a guy in the lobby. He's a runner. Go get Andrew. They're going to talk to him. But like, so then there was another person who wore them also, and they were like really liked them. And so my wife previously had tried giving her some like Hoka's and some Asics shoes. She liked the Brooks Levitate. I don't know why. I mean, I think I bought those. They were buy one, get one. So I was just trying them, and then I gave her some,
Yeah.
And so, but she really likes the Vongos. Those worked out for her. But she needs some stability for her running.
Yeah.
But, I didn't try to convince her. I think she had a friend, and he lost a lot of weight. And then his wife also got into running too. And they were on like a fitness journey, and they like running, and they're like, we're going to run a half marathon. And she's like, I'm going to run a half marathon.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm going to run with them. And it gets up to a 10-mile long run, and I'm going to do this stuff. And I was like, okay. I was like, that's awesome. I don't want you to burn out and die. You might start with the 5K or 10K, but marrying a queen, we'll put that one on top tips, for success, But
I love that.
Journey, how's your training going in this? You in peak mileage?
No, I came down because I was at 120, and it's just how do you find the time for 120 when you can barely do 100? So I'm at 100. I've actually been thinking about, do I need to add more speed in? Because my endurance, like you were saying, my aerobic fitness is just, I could probably run for 30 miles and then recover and run the next day. That's how I feel right now, but that would be at an 8-minute pace. I just feel like I have such a big base, but my speed isn't there. So I think I'm going to focus on that for the next month. I'm also not too pressed because Chicago was my main goal for this year. So like you were talking about a tune-up race. If this one isn't my fastest, like absolute maximizing my fitness, it'll be fine. I'll just get my second marathon out. And then I think this summer I'm going to be speed because I've just been working on aerobic conditioning for so long, for the past year and a half.
Yeah. No, one of the things that I feel like in my experience was that like when I work on my aerobic endurance or my aerobic speed, is that my top end never goes away necessarily in the way you think it'll dissipate, right? Because it's like, hey, a bear's chasing you, run to that mailbox, like you're gonna go, right? And so you still have you could still run 6:04 no problem. But what I notice is that after doing all that mileage, you just don't fade. Like you just don't slow down, because like I did the same thing you did. Like, well, on the treadmill, when I was first getting into running, they had a 5K option. That's how I found out it was 3.12 miles. I didn't know that before, I was like, oh, okay. So when the gym shut down, I was like, well, all right, well, I'm going to go run a 5K, right? 3.12 miles. I got the Nike Run Club app or whatever. I need some running shoes. Asics, they're like a big company. So I got on and I bought Cumulus's because they were like, oh, wow, okay, Asics, those look fast. Yeah. And I run a 5K every day. It'd be like, I take a couple of days. It'd be like, I'm going to go run a 5K, just as fast as I can. And that's how I'm going to get faster, And then it was like, I 2 weeks later, I would run slower than when I did before. And I was like, man, this isn't working, And then when I did low heart rate training and I just started building more mileage in a base, then it would just like, I would run and then like the first mile would be there, the second mile would be there, the third mile would be there, and it was still there. And that's why I feel like in Houston, I was running and it's like, I could run this 650 pace, but then my body was just like, slowing down because I didn't have the volume where I feel like, and that's what I was like, I just need to go get that volume because, my coach ran me fast, and I was like, I've got the speed, I can do it, and it's like, I feel like I need that. Now I feel like I have it. I feel like I could run forever.
Yeah, I agree, man. That's how I feel too. That's what all the books say, like running long is what helps. But when I haven't done 5:30s or 5:40s in a few weeks, I feel like I'm not pushing myself. I'm not running threshold repeats. But I think doing a 22-mile long run with marathon pace, that's probably all you need to train for the marathon effectively if you're running high volume.
Yeah, like I think I saw a Do you know who Jason Fitzgerald is?
Strength running?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was one of the guys I used to watch a ton.
Yeah, so I reached out to him. He said he's open. He's game to come on and talk. So I might talk with him next. But he's a guy I always vibe with, just like whenever he's talking about it, And he had a guest on recently, and they were just saying like, really, you just need to like touch on that speed work, that VO2 max. Like once you've built it and you have it, just touching on it like twice. So I ran 800s once in the middle of the 5-week block, and then I ran 800s 10 days out. So it's kind of like stimulating, just keeping it on life support, and then running some comfortably hard stuff or whatever. But just like, and then just building in all of that mileage.
Yeah, that's helpful to hear, man, because that's been my biggest, not even concern, just like thing I'm thinking about, because I feel aerobically so fit. But I'm like, am I doing enough speed? But if it's there, because I've been doing it probably once every week or every 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, I think that's plenty. And then also like because I was such a disciple of the Maffetone method, when I first started, like for the first few months, I was like, I won't even do strides. I won't even, and I was like, but then I started PRing every, distance. Now it's a lot of new guy gains, but still, it was like, oh, okay. Like if you can physically carry your body across a distance, at that speed, you're going to still be able to do it, and I think Stephen Scullion talked about like how sometimes the line just gets closer, as far as like, you wouldn't be able to run like a 5K PR, right? If you're not doing a lot of 5K work, right? But which makes a lot of sense.
That's not the goal.
Yeah, but it's not the goal. So, and then did you read The Endurance of Running? Did you cover that one?
No.
Like Jason Karp, I thought I know you were contemplating.
I read his periodization book. I didn't read The Endurance of Running.
Yeah, or The Endurance of Speed. It was The Endurance of Speed, right? And he was saying that basically, like, guys like me who just started running later in life, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to run slow, whatever. It's like, I never ran fast. So then, like, hey, like, maybe you ought to try running fast. Like, so I thought about, over the summer, maybe I'll do that. Like, and he has, like, blocks in that book for, like track workouts, like speed workouts. So, like, building your top-end speed first, because your marathon pace is a fraction of your top end speed. So if you get your faster, now we're talking about like doing that. So like Chicago sub 230, it's coming for you, bro.
Yeah, I think that's the next level, getting that top end higher. But right now, man, just drilling on aerobic. Like it's what we got to do. I think that's how you become a better runner, is just volume.
Is there anything else that you would like to share, best practices on time management, since you seem to be so productive?
Goals. I think goals and holding yourself accountable. Those are the things that have worked for me personally. And there's something about the everyday system. I don't know what it is, where it's like, I know I got to do this today because I got to do another one tomorrow. And if I don't have it every day, if I have it every week, it's like, I can do it tomorrow. But every day I can't do it tomorrow because I got to do something else tomorrow. So that's what's been super helpful for me, is holding myself accountable to doing something every day. And I don't think it has to be as extreme as if someone's looking to start a new habit or start a career change or whatever it might be. I don't think it has to be extreme as filming a 30-minute video every day. But if there's one thing you can commit to every day to make progress toward that goal, that's going to be huge. And that's what I call a system. And so if you can build a system like that, where it's every day or every week works for you, holding yourself accountable to it, that's going to be the biggest thing. And holding yourself accountable, not having anyone else hold you accountable, not needing something external to make you do it, but something internal.